Welcome back. This is Retirement News Online. Think of retirement income as a waterfall, right? Different streams of money flow in at different times and from different sources. Social Security, pensions, annuities, investments, and tax-advantaged accounts, they all need to be coordinated so that the water flows smoothly without running dry too soon. Now, this coordination is key to financial confidence in retirement. My guest is Jason Sanger with Wisconsin Financial Group in Fitchburg, Wisconsin. So, Jason, how do you design one of those waterfalls so that cash flow is steady and predictable?
Yeah, I think retirement for a lot of people is a very murky topic. Like, they're not sure how to go about it exactly. It's a little bit confusing. And I get why, because you spent 40, 45 years building wealth, accumulating, and then in one day, things kind of switch over and you have to figure out how retirement's going to work. And so what you want to first do is identify the functions of money in retirement. There's basically three main functions. You got to create income for yourself to live on, which is like a paycheck from your assets. Then you also want to have liquidity and some legacy, depending on what your mix is there. So you really need to define that individually for yourself. What do I want for these functions? Do I want X amount per year of income? Do I want X amount of money that's not tied to my income as liquid? And then what do I want as a legacy down the road? Maybe that's the definition of whatever is left over, or maybe there is a specific amount. But it's a waterfall effect. So if you look at the resources you're going to have in the day of retirement, things like your 401ks, IRAs, investment accounts, brokerage accounts, Social Security, pensions, the different things that you got to retirement with, you first have to use those resources to create your retirement paycheck. So you're going to have to dedicate some of that to allow you to stop working. From there, whatever wasn't used waterfalls into your liquidity legacy area because it's not tied to your income. That's one of the biggest rules of retirement to understand as well, is that money that is dedicated to income, no matter what strategy you use, is by definition not truly liquid. Mm-hmm. Meaning you can't take it out in excess of what you're getting as a paycheck, because if you do, you just hurt your income and potentially might cause yourself for running out of money long term because you took money that wasn't supposed to be taken out of that pot. So you really want to separate off your retirement income money versus your liquid money.
And it probably makes sense too, because we haven't really talked about taxes, but part of income is managing taxation here, and that can kind of interrupt the waterfall as well. I think a lot of people don't realize how important minimizing taxes is, because obviously the more you keep the government out of your wallet, the more cash flow you have in retirement. Talk about how you plan around that.
Yeah. The big key at first is to make sure your retirement income plan is efficient and that you got the paycheck you want, like X amount per year. And you're using the method to create or strategy you want to create your income. Once you know what your income is going to be at paycheck-wise, then what you really want to pay attention to is brackets that are near there. Federal tax brackets, maybe IRMA brackets for Medicare purposes, and different things of that nature, to see if you're at a spot where you need to make a slight adjustment to avoid a cliff on something. Where you would jump into a higher bracket on the Medicare or IRMA brackets and stuff like that. So you really want to get your retirement income plan, know what the amounts are going to be roughly, and then get into the tax planning on the edges to make sure it's efficient with that. There's other ways to go about that too after you've done that with different things in retirement to take advantage of things like Roth conversions, especially with your liquidity, legacy, growth money, and things like that. There's some tax planning strategies to take a look at down there too.
And when it comes to income and legacy, I want you to be a little bit more specific, as I think you talk about leveraging insurance products in some way. Talk about how you put those into play to help people do that.
Yeah, we spend 30 to 40 years accumulating wealth, generally in investments. And then as we get to retirement, we start looking at how do we get our systematic paycheck for ourselves. And as an individual, by myself, it's very difficult to navigate some of the risks in retirement, like sequence of return risk and not knowing how long myself I'm going to live. But I also don't want to run out of retirement income or money. So one of the methods you can use as a strategy to consideration in that income area is using what's called the law of large numbers or pooling that's provided by insurance companies. They make products that are specifically built for distribution. And those distribution products are very good at giving you higher rates of income that they can even guarantee for the rest of your life, and even on a joint life basis with a spouse. So those are definitely things to look at and make sure you're categorically seeing as comparisons to other options you might be able to employ for yourself, for for your retirement income plan.
And it's important, I think you would agree, that there has to be some flexibility in the plan as well, because obviously life happens, but things are changing rapidly every day sometimes, from policy risk, economics, the markets are up and down, the stuff that's happening in other countries, pandemics, everything that we've seen recently. So talk about how you build flexibility into a plan.
Right, yeah, and this has to be customized to each individual person and what they're after. So we don't want too much money tied up in one thing, for example. We might be employing a strategy for efficiency in one spot, but if we're going to do it there, we got to make sure we've got it set up so we have other monies in different spots that also are accessible to us. So that's an extremely important piece of retirement, is flexibility, so that you can adjust. And I've said this before, but a big piece of flexibility is efficiency. The more efficient you are at accomplishing the certain functions in retirement, the more money is left over for that flexibility to do what you want with. And that waterfall effect really comes into play. Again, whatever isn't kind of set aside or put into the retirement income area of the waterfall gets to waterfall through to your truly liquid area. And that's where the money gets all the flexibility you want.
Last thing too, I think for people watching here, they may be working with somebody and they are realizing now, hey, I'm just focused on accumulating. I mean, how do they know that they have the right advisor, somebody who's like you perhaps?
Right, I mean, as an investment advisor myself, a lot of times the industry is kind of just accumulating, and they're not really breaching the topic with their clients of, hey, how are we going to turn this into income? And there's different designations people can get in the industry too for different things. Like I myself I'm called an RICP, a Retirement Income Certified Professional. So I've taken some special courses and training and so forth to understand how this transition is going to work, how Social Security kicks on and when, and what the advantages of doing it at certain times are for different people. So that's a big play there, is to make sure you're working with somebody who has that expertise and knowledge in that area and specializes a bit in that area, so that they can make that transition with you. Otherwise, you're kind of just doing the same thing you did for 40 years, hoping it works again for another 40 years. But the rules are all changing now.
As we talked about hoping.
Right.
Hoping. That's not good. We got a plan. He is Jason Sanger with Wisconsin Financial Group in Fitchburg, Wisconsin. Thank you for joining us here on Retirement News Online.